Welcome to Impact the World, a podcast from West Park Baptist Church in Knoxville, Tennessee. This is where we discuss topics related to how we can all love God, love people, and impact the world. Here's your host, Tara Hayes.
I'm your host, Tara Hayes, and I have my unofficial official co-host, Jake.
Hello.
How are you today?
Good, because I'm here.
Yay!
It's always a good day.
It's always a good day when we get to sit down together. And the weather is beautiful.
It's great.
Summer's coming.
So good. Yep.
It's we've made it through fake spring, real spring, false winter. All the 12 different seasons that we have here in Knoxville.
So I'm sure when this releases, it'll be snowing. So.
Probably. That'll probably be about right. But I kind of thought it's about time that we sit down and have another book discussion.
And I got to say, we're going to do another book discussion. I had a thought today. I was listening to a podcast, and I was like, why don't we have a sponsor? Because they all have it's like HelloFresh is always on there. Like everything's sponsored by HelloFresh or whatever. Like, so here's my question. You can, where can they email? What's the email for this?
There's a podcast at westparkbaptist.org.
Podcast at westparkbaptist.org. Email us. Just interesting question. If this podcast had a sponsor, who would it be?
No.
What company?
Yes. And if you email us, I've just made the decision, and we'll pick the best, and we'll do a fake commercial for it.
Good.
It'll be
Sounds
awesome.
Good.
Jake and I'll do a fake commercial.
We may get in legal trouble, but it's okay. We'll
that
do
may
it.
be the end of our podcast career, but it'll be fun going down.
That's good. So, we need a sponsor. We're going to go hunting for a sponsor. They don't even have to pay us anything.
No.
We just want a sponsor.
It's their lucky day.
Yep,
they have no idea what's about to hit them. Anyway, okay.
Book review.
Book reviews.
Book review. Well, here's what we're going to do. So I got 3 books for us, varying in sizes. As you can see, I got them all on the table here. And I'm going to put my cards on the table up front. It's the month where we're promoting training program, right? And so I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about the books that we use for training program.
Fantastic.
Because you don't have to take the training program to read these. They're going to benefit you. Like if you're not,
you mean I'm allowed to just buy those on my own?
You could, like I don't have any kind of, there's no rule out there. You could buy them on Amazon. They will still send them to you. You can read them. But let me say this. What if there was this program, okay, like that trained you in godliness, and you could actually come together and you could discuss these books with like 5 or 6 other people in a cohort, and you could hear stuff taught about them, and just, like 8-month program, something
Sounds like
that.
a fantastic opportunity.
Sounds almost too good to be true, doesn't it? Maybe that's our sponsor. Sponsored by the West Park Training Program, where you can read these books together with others.
Like it.
Okay. So if you wanted to have accountability, I don't know, if you've ever sat down and tried to read a systematic theology, it's hard to do alone.
Yeah, it's not just...
But you could do it with others. And so that is where, you can read these without the training program, but it'd be helpful.
It's more beneficial and fun.
Absolutely. I agree with that. So let me go through them here. We got 3 books that we go through. So number 1, I'll start with the big one here. This is the one I show when I'm promoting the thing, just to intimidate
to really
people.
draw people in.
To sift out the people who aren't serious.
Yeah.
But this is Wayne Grudem's Systematic Theology. They've come out with the 2nd edition now, and this is what I love. I love this. It is, let me see, 1,585 pages.
Oh.
And the subtitle is An Introduction to Biblical Doctrine. So is
there another that is not just the introduction?
Yeah, this is just the introduction. Yeah,
wow.
no, this is
okay.
So it's
Thanks, Wayne.
Yep, there we go. So let me say, we use this one. There are every systematic theology. So what that is, if you don't know, so you can kind of look at the study of theology typically in 2 different ways of doing it. There's biblical theology, which we do a little bit of in the program because there are strengths and weaknesses to both. Biblical theology is looking at theology through the entire storyline of the Bible, right? Because the Bible is one story.
Right.
Like that, we sometimes forget that. It is a story of, often people will say creation, fall, redemption, new creation, right? Like there's it's a story from Genesis 1 to Revelation that goes
there's
throughout.
A carrying theme.
There is. And so an overarching story that points to Jesus. And so biblical theology studies it that way, and we talk about that in the program. But systematic theology is where you study theology based on different topics, right? So, for instance, the Trinity. And so he's going to take the Trinity and he's going to take all the parts of the Bible that talk about, right, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, and bring them all together in a chapter to talk about that. And so there are
fantastic.
there are weaknesses to systematic theology studying it that way. One of them being that you can forget that the Bible is a unified story pointing to Jesus. But it's a good way, especially for a class like ours, to study these different topics. And so that's why we use this systematic theology. There are a lot of great systematic theologies out there.
Yeah.
A lot of great historical ones, a lot of great present day ones. Yeah. They're, just go, you can go down the list of all these different ones. We use this one because I think of all the systematics that I've read, this one is probably the most accessible, even though it's 1,584 pages. It's the most accessible. It's the most readable.
I was going to say, my brother has, that's his theology book of choice.
Yep.
Because he said it is very readable.
Yep. And that's what stands out about it. So, Tom Schreiner, here's one of the blurbs on the back. He's one of my professors at Southern. He said, stands out for its clarity and accessibility. And I think that's it, right? Like there's some, experienced theologians that have beef with some of the things, but like when you're talking about your introduction into this, it's hard to get better.
To me, what's the point of reading it if you're just going to be like, that sounds great. I have no idea what he just said.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Because I feel like for me, a systematic theology book would be one that I would grab like, okay, I think I know what I believe about X, Y, and Z, but let me see what
exactly.
Let's pull the scripture and it's all there in one place on that topic.
And he does a good job also of walking through different beliefs. And I feel like, in my point of view, when you're having these discussions, you need to be able to say the opposing viewpoint in a way where the person says, yes, that is what I believe.
Yeah.
And I think he does that. Like I don't fully I wouldn't fall exactly where he does on everything. So even when he falls differently than me, every time I've read it and I'm like, he describes my position, I'm like, yeah. That's accurate.
You're
okay,
right.
Great.
That's why I feel that way.
That's it. And so he did a good job. So I like it. Again, it's not perfect. None of them are.
Right.
And then we, even as we're finishing up the first go around of training program, we're starting to get feedback from people. And so I've gotten some feedback from, right now they're all sending them in. So if you listen to this and you haven't done it, send your stuff in.
Here's your reminder.
But one of the questions is, what do you think about these books? And on this one, it seems like so far everyone has read, sometimes it gets a little long, sometimes it gets a little wordy, but I understood it for the most part, and it's clear. And for being a systematic theology book, it's kind of a page turner. So, yeah.
I actually have talked to several people in the program that have said, I was a little leery about having to read a giant theology book, but it's actually been good.
It's great.
Yeah.
And if you're not, if you want something shorter, I would actually suggest he has two different versions of this. One is called Bible Doctrine, and it's just basically all the opposing viewpoints taken out. And so you kind of just get like the meat of it, and it's probably about half the size. So still long, but not as long. So that's a good one. And then there's one that's really small that I've taken when I was in student ministry back in the day, took students through, and it's just 20 essentials.
Oh, wow.
And he gives like 3 to 4 pages on every essential. So
that's a really good, very quick introduction.
That could be a really good, and he's just hitting the main 20 things.
Yeah.
I think it's called Christian Beliefs. So you have systematic theology, Bible doctrine, and then Christian beliefs, and it's 20.
Is that a book you would ever go through with like a small group or a community group situation?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
It lends itself to good discussion.
Okay.
So you read it, you all kind of have the go, and then you can expand off that discussion.
Yeah.
So I like that one.
Awesome.
So Wayne Grudem, Systematic Theology, it'll be in the show notes. Second, so this is actually based on reviews I've gotten from people in the class. They're saying this is maybe their favorite for what I'm finding out. It's called 40 Questions About Interpreting the Bible by Rob Plummer. And so these final 2 guys on these books were my seminary professors. Rob Plummer, Dr. Plummer, is one of the best, maybe the best teacher of taking complex things and making them understandable. So he was my Greek professor.
Oh, wow.
He made it understandable. That's my fault that I didn't get anything.
Not on him
anything
that I
don't
do
know.
better.
I can fully say it was not on him because he did a really good job. But This book, 40 Questions About Interpreting the Bible. If you have questions about where the Bible came from, how we got the Bible, why we have so many different translations, which translations are the best,
Oh, yeah.
how to interpret different genres of the Bible, right? So, if you read poetry the same way you read a narrative, you're going to get kind of confused, right? Like those kind of
Exactly.
things.
Yeah.
Like we need to be able to identify there's different genres
yeah.
throughout. It's one story with different genres, so you need to read differently. And this just is really helpful. And
That sounds great.
40 questions, it's typically like, let me see here, 9 to 10 pages per question.
Okay.
And it really just it's gets down into everything. What is the Bible? How's it organized? How to interpret it.
Would that be good or maybe too much for a person who's a new believer that has questions?
I think it'd be a good start.
Okay.
Yeah, he's so. There would maybe be some stuff where he'd be like, "Why do I care about this?" But
Right.
he's such a good writer and communicator of taking complex things and making them easy. That I think it would be really awesome. I would if you were meeting with someone, discipling someone who has questions about the Bible, I would probably take them here. Yeah, it's really good. And so we get in the program to how did we get our canon, right? Like why the canon being like why
What is the canon?
Yeah, what is the canon? Yeah, but
We're shooting things? No, not that kind of canon.
Yeah, one end, not two ends. Right. So,
Right.
But how did we get the books that are in our Bible? Why are those in there? What is, are they trustworthy? Like, do we know that we have?
This is a legit question because if you're basing everything that you do in your life and that you believe on the Bible,
Yep.
you kind of got to know, like, where did it come from?
Yep. Where did it come from? Are we sure that are we
Is
sure
it
that
preserved?
we have
Right.
the right words? So textual criticism, this big thing that you don't need to get too far into unless you're a nerd like me. But so this is a good introduction. So 40 questions about interpreting the Bible, Rob Plummer. So we talk about that in the program, but I would suggest it even if you don't. And then this final one, Spiritual Disciplines for the Christian Life by Don Whitney. And so this is over 400,000 sold. So it's sold a lot, but probably
I'm
more
sure
since
that
I bought
means
this.
a lot.
Yeah. So I'm looking at some of the stuff it gets into. So it's literally every chapter is taking a different spiritual discipline. So Bible intake, prayer, worship, evangelism, serving, stewardship, fasting, silence and solitude, journaling, learning, and then he talks about persevering in the disciplines. It is. I would say this one. I'm reading a lot of books like this for the program I'm in, which is focusing on spiritual formation. So reading, and this one, everyone has strengths and weaknesses, but this is an introduction to the spiritual disciplines. Hard to beat. Just of like, if you are new to fasting, silence and solitude,
Just
reading
the
the Bible,
idea of a spiritual discipline, because I feel like so many people, well, I shouldn't say blanket statement, but a lot of people could be like, I didn't know there were spiritual disciplines.
Yeah.
I come to church on Sunday, I read my Bible every day, I try to pray.
Yep.
I didn't know there was more.
Absolutely. And which also plug, we have a bunch of podcasts we've done on
gonna
spiritual
say,
disciplines, so you can go look at those.
Yes.
But this is a really good introduction. Like it's really solid. It's just really, if that's something you want to grow in, it's just your ability to do the spiritual disciplines. If you need convincing of why you should be doing these things, this is a good place to start.
Yeah.
So
Sounds like I have heard a lot of great things about that book.
yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. And Dr. Whitney's great. So had him up at Southern too, and his class was probably my favorite one that I took.
Really?
Yeah, and I remember when I got there thinking like spiritual disciplines, like it was kind of like I know how to read my Bible, I know how to pray, like what do we like? That's why I'm in
What are we
seminary.
doing?
Like I want to get into theology stuff. I want to get into whatever. But that was probably my favorite class, or at least one of my favorite classes, because
A surprise favorite for sure.
because it was like, wow, like you can actually, they call seminary cemetery, because it's the place for your faith to go and die.
Yeah.
And this was I think God used this to help me so much, because I realized it doesn't do me any good to learn about the Trinity if I don't have a relationship with the Trinity.
Right.
Like if I am not communing with God, if I'm not
Right.
praying, if I don't have time alone with Him. And so it's easy just to only bring in this knowledge and totally abandon relationship
Yeah.
with God. There's just one story, and it could totally not have actually happened, but I remember it all the time, and I'm gonna choose to believe that it happened. So A.W. Tozer, maybe you've read a book by him or two. He's the one who famously said, what we believe about God is the most important thing about us, or what comes to our mind when we think about God is the most important thing about us.
Yes.
So he was all about theology, right? Like the right beliefs about God. But the story goes that he had a young guy he was discipling come to him and say, he was stressing out over choose your theological thing, right? Like Calvinism or Arminianism, right? Like whatever. He's stressing out. And Tozer just listened. He listened. He said, here's my advice. Don't worry about that right now. Just go to the woods and meet with God. And I love that because I feel like I'm that guy often, right? Like I'm wrestling through these things. And in that, I actually can think so much about God that I forget that really the whole goal is to know Him better and to be in a relationship with Him. And He wants that from me, right? Like He wants that. Theology's great. That's why we're studying it. But
it's not the most important part.
No, it's a relation. We want to know about this God that we have a relationship with. And that's the goal, right? And so that's why, if you take the training program, we don't only do theology. It's also, there's an emphasis, a very high emphasis, like just as much of an emphasis on these spiritual disciplines, on your relationship with God. I always say in the class, I try to say it as much as I can, the worst thing that could possibly happen in this class is that you learn more about God and yet you grow cold to Him. If you learn a lot more about God and your relationship with Him you're not growing closer with Him, then it's a failure.
Yeah.
There's no
It's a
point.
tragedy.
You should have never done the program. And
Well, I know when we did the podcast and I sat down with Leanne and Sally and Jonathan, they all said that the goal of this class is not just to gain knowledge, because knowledge for knowledge's sake is pointless.
Yep.
It's to deepen that relationship.
Yep. And even theology. So go back to systematic theology. Like the goal of that is doxology, worship, right? Like that's the goal. It's not just to have, because there's so many bad reasons to study theology. To win arguments. To win arguments. Okay, I'll talk about, for me, like I think there's just this like a real struggle for me is being motivated to learn more just because I feel like it gives me it's like the whole knowledge is power thing, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like if I just need to know the most, like, and it's just driven by wanting to know the most, like, and really no, like theology, you study that to know more about God and worship Him and give Him glory.
Relate to.
Yes, and so there's all these wrong reasons of like just wanting to win arguments or just be the one who knows the most or impress other people. That's not the goal.
Yeah.
That's not the goal at all. So we want to learn about Him, but we also want to grow closer to Him.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think that's a great set of books. It's a lot of pages too.
It is. And reading in the program, it says on the brochure around 50 pages a week. Sometimes it's much less than that. This week in their last theology week, we're going into one of our last weeks, and they're reading 80. So there are some, there are some big weeks, and there are some shorter weeks, but it's all good.
Well,
it's all good stuff.
I think I'm excited about the program. I've heard so many fantastic things, and again, to learn more about theology or about spiritual disciplines and to build that relationship with the Lord. I mean, that's really why we're here.
It is.
And so I'm excited about it. I can't believe we're getting ready to wrap up the first year.
I know. It's crazy.
That is crazy. Just a couple, like
three
weeks?
As of recording this, 3 weeks left.
Wow.
Yep. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Hey, here's a good reminder. As of right now, you can still apply.
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 You won't regret it.
You won't. I've not heard one person, and I've talked to a lot of people in the program, all of them are glad they've done it.
Yep. And it's I mean, again, I want to like just even the fact these books that we're talking about, it's not light reading. It is challenging.
Yeah. It's a commitment.
Yeah, it's a commitment. It may not be the right season for you. That's totally possible.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's
well, you and I were talking about this before. I mean, there are young people,
Yeah.
20s, 30s. I know people in their 70s that
Yeah.
want to take it.
exactly.
Because that's when God had them there to take it,
Yep.
So
That's it. Yep.
it's
So,
exciting.
I mean, yeah, it's but at least I would just ask, consider it.
Yeah.
Right? Like consider it.
Yeah, consider it for sure. I know I would love to take it. So one of these years, Jake.
Get you an application right now.
Jake's like, I know how you can apply. Well, this has been a great discussion. I like our book discussions.
Yeah, me
They
too.
make me want to grow my library. Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
gonna-
I at the least I will make you spend a lot more money.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
yeah, that's my goal.
gonna
It's
have
great
to-
if you read them, but buying books is fun. Yeah.
I love buying books.
Yeah.
I just need to read them.
Yeah.
But no, this has been great, and I look forward to hearing at the end of this year how this has turned out and how people have enjoyed it, and gear up for next year.
Yep.
Just keep doing it. So thanks for sitting down with me.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to the next time we can sit down together.
Thank you for listening to Impact the World. To find out more about West Park Baptist Church in Knoxville, Tennessee, visit westparkbaptist.org.